AITAH for asking my ex's affair partner if she knew he was married to me when they started their affair, and then using that to answer why I won't help her out by babysitting her kid. I, 32F, used to believe that after more than a decade with someone, after building a home, raising kids together, sharing bills, routines, and everyday life, you could at least trust them to not blindside you like a villain from a bad drama. But apparently, my ex-husband, 34M, saw things differently. Our marriage had already been feeling off. Not in a huge explosive way, but in that slow, subtle way where small things start not adding up. He'd come home a little later. He'd guard his phone more. But the big red flag, the one I couldn't ignore, was our finances. Money was disappearing, and not in a surprise bill kind of way. It was like a slow leak I couldn't find. When I finally dug deeper, I discovered the truth. He had been cheating on me for almost 2 years with a woman named Anna, 34F, 2 years. That number hit me like a punch to the stomach. It wasn't some short, stupid mistake. It was a double life he maintained while coming home to me and our children like nothing was wrong. And to make it worse, he wasn't just spending money on her. He was also buying things for her daughter, who was 6 at the time. I remember staring at the transactions with this cold feeling spreading through me. Like all the warmth I used to feel for him evaporated in an instant. Later, I found out she had been planning to leave him because she was tired of things not going her way. He was buying all that stuff to keep her sweet. His words, trying to keep her from walking away. When I confronted him and told him I was filing for divorce, he tried to justify everything like it was some kind of math equation. He said he gave Anna so little time because he was devoted to me and our 2 kids. He acted like buying gifts for his affair partner and her child was just some money to keep everyone happy. I remember staring at him, wondering how someone could twist reality so casually. It made me feel sick. He eventually accepted that I wasn't staying. And the moment it became clear I was done, he moved in with Anna and her daughter, basically confirming everything I already knew about where his priorities had been. After that, I made a firm decision about boundaries. I would communicate only with my ex, only by text or email, and only about our children. No friendly co-parenting dinners. No we can all be friends fantasy. I wasn't interested in pretending that the 2 people who betrayed me were now part of some blended, happy family. My ex and Anna were not my friends. They were not my family, and I disliked both of them deeply. But Anna didn't seem to understand boundaries. She reached out multiple times, sending these bizarre messages about how we should be supporting each other and acting as a family of 3 parents. The audacity of that can't even explain the wave of disbelief I felt reading her texts. It was like she wanted to skip straight to the warm, cozy ending of a movie while ignoring the part where she and my ex destroyed my marriage. I ignored every message where she tried to initiate that kind of relationship. And the one time she tried to bring it up in person, I told her, calmly but very clearly, that we would never be friends or family. I told her I wasn't going to pretend like what she and my ex didn't happen, and I wasn't going to let her brush it under the rug like a spilled drink. After that, she tried a couple more times, and I just ignored her. Things stayed mostly quiet until a couple of weeks ago. I was at a school function for my 2 kids. It was supposed to be a normal day. Show up, support my kids, go home. Anna's daughter goes to a different school, so I didn't expect to run into Anna. But she approached me anyway, walking toward me like she'd been waiting for her moment. She told me her babysitter was no longer available to watch her daughter after school, and she asked if I could pick her daughter up every Friday and watch her until 8 p.m. For context, I already pick up my own kids on Fridays because they have after-school activities, but they come home by 5 p.m. Anna's daughter was always with a sitter. This wasn't some emergency. She wasn't stranded. She just wanted me to take on more work, more responsibility for her child. She said, "You might not want to be my friend, but you should be willing to help because of the kids." That sentence made something in me go still. The way she used my children to try to guilt me after what she and my ex did felt like a slap. So I asked her, very directly, "Were you aware my ex was married when the affair started? Were you aware he had a wife and kids when you started sleeping with him?" She didn't answer at first. She looked uncomfortable, which she should have been. I stayed quiet and waited. Eventually, she admitted she knew. She knew he had children, and she still went ahead with it. After that, I told her I would give her the same consideration she gave me and my kids. Meaning, absolutely none. I told her I wasn't going to babysit. I told her she had no right to use my children as leverage. And I reminded her that she slept with their father while he was still married to me. That even though my ex carried most of the guilt, she wasn't innocent. She helped destroy the family she was now trying to weaponize to get favors from me. Her face kept shifting. Anger, embarrassment, disbelief. She tried to say something else, but I didn't wait around to hear it. I walked away and went straight to my kids, who hadn't seen or heard any of the conversation. And after that, I made sure to avoid being cornered by her again. Later that evening, she texted me saying I wasn't being kind to her daughter. I ignored her. Then she accused me of bringing up the question just to throw it back in her face, and that I needed to get over the cheating. It was unbelievable. Then my ex emailed me asking why I couldn't just watch all 3 kids if I already had ours. I responded that I had already given my answer to Anna and wouldn't be clarifying further. He texted after that, calling me petty and saying Anna's daughter didn't deserve punishment. Then he brought up the question I asked Anna and said it wasn't fair. Hearing him defend her like that, it was familiar. Like deja vu from the period when I was discovering the affair. Last week, after their visit with their dad, my oldest told me that he and Anna were pretty pissed at me. My kids weren't told anything directly, but they overheard them talking about me. I documented everything with my attorney. I don't take chances when it involves the kids. And now, I keep wondering if I was wrong. Maybe it was my anger toward them that made me say more than necessary. Maybe I should have just said no and walked away. Or maybe I shouldn't be saying no at all. But every time I replay it, I come back to the same feeling. They crossed so many lines, and now they're upset I won't do them a favor. A favor involving their household, their child, the one they prioritized over mine financially while they were blowing up my marriage. I've been sitting with everything that happened at that school function longer than I expected. Even after walking away from Anna that day, the conversation replayed in my mind. Her tone, the way she tried to present the request as if it were something reasonable, something I should feel obligated to do. And underneath all of that was this strange confidence she had, like she believed she had a right to ask favors from me. That part still baffles me. After the confrontation, life went back to its usual routine. School runs, work, making dinner, helping with homework. But even during those normal moments, there was this lingering tension. I kept questioning myself. Was I too harsh? Could I have just declined polite? Should I have avoided bringing up the affair altogether? But every time I tried to imagine handling it differently, I hit a wall. Because the truth is, she wasn't asking me for a simple favor. She was asking for access to my time, my energy, and my household, after she had already played a major role in breaking apart mine. It wasn't about her daughter. I don't blame the kid at all. It was about the audacity of Anna expecting me to essentially step in and become an unpaid support system for the family she helped create at my expense. And honestly, I wasn't going to pretend like everything was fine just because she suddenly needed childcare. After that night, I expected things to calm down. Instead, the next ripple came from my ex. His email first, then the text he sent after. I'm not sure why, but it irritated me more than even Anna's approach. Maybe because he should have known better. Maybe because we had been operating under the same very clear boundaries for months. Communication only about our kids. No side conversations. No pushing personal matters onto me. This was supposed to protect our co-parenting from unnecessary drama. But he crossed that line the moment he tried to pressure me into taking care of Anna's daughter. His email asking, "Why can't you just watch all 3 kids?" felt dismissive. Like he couldn't even imagine that I'd say no to something he assumed would be harmless. And his follow-up text calling me petty, it made something inside me tight. Petty? For establishing and maintaining a boundary after they both ran over every boundary I had during our marriage? It was almost laughable. And then he brought up the way I questioned Anna at the school event, saying it wasn't fair to throw the affair back at her. That part really made me pause, because it showed me exactly how delusional he still was. Like the cheating was something from ancient history, something that should no longer affect any real-world decision. But that affair was the reason my life turned upside down. The reason our kids had 2 homes now. The reason I barely recognized the man I used to call my husband. I didn't respond to his text. I didn't see the point. Anything I said would only drag me into a conversation I didn't want to have. So I let it sit. A few days later, when the kids returned from spending time at their dad's, my oldest offhandedly mentioned something that made my stomach drop. They said their dad and Anna were pretty pissed at me. They didn't say it with fear. They said it the way kids report an adult being frustrated over something irrelevant to them. But the fact that they overheard their dad and Anna discussing me in a heated way, that was enough. I know that when adults talk about each other in front of kids, even without saying anything directly, it affects them. I don't want my children to feel caught in the middle. I don't want them to carry any tension between households. So the moment they left my room, I emailed my attorney. I documented everything, the confrontation, the texts, the overheard conversation. Not because I want to escalate anything, but because I've learned to protect myself proactively. After that, I found myself going back and forth internally. Not about babysitting. My answer was still solidly no, but about how I handled the conversation with Anna. I know my tone wasn't polite or neutral. I wasn't trying to keep things soft. I was angry, and it showed. And that's the part I kept circling around in my head. I replayed the moment I asked her if she knew he was married. I remember how her face changed, how she looked like she hoped I wouldn't go there. But I did, and I waited until she answered. It wasn't about humiliating her. I needed to hear the truth from her mouth. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was reassurance that the picture I had in my head wasn't warped. But hearing her say the words, "He was married, she knew," was like finally turning a key on a lock that had been rusted shut. It confirmed everything I already knew, but said out loud, it carried weight. It made all the excuses my ex had thrown at me feel even more ridiculous. And after she said yes, I didn't feel guilty for what I said next. Not in the moment, not now. Because when she tried to use my kids, the kids whose family she helped break apart, as justification for why I should help her, she crossed a line so deep that I'm still shocked she couldn't see it. But even with all of that, part of me wondered if the emotional weight of the past was influencing my decisions now. I'm not blind to my own feelings. I know I dislike her, and I know I'm still hurt by what my ex did. I'm not pretending to be some perfectly objective person who's moved on completely. So yes, I asked myself, did I only say no because of my hatred for them? Did I escalate things by bringing up the affair? Should I be more neutral since we share kids? But every time I look at the situation logically, the answer stays the same. Babysitting Anna's daughter has nothing to do with my kids. It has nothing to do with shared responsibilities or co-parenting. Her daughter is not my responsibility. Her mother is not part of my household. Their problems are not my problems. And if I had said yes out of politeness or fear of judgment, it would have sent the wrong message, that they were entitled to my time, that there would always be a soft place to land if they needed help, that I was willing to overlook everything for the sake of convenience. I'm not going to do that. Also, frankly, I don't trust Anna. I don't trust my ex, and I refuse to put myself in a situation where they can twist anything against me. If something happens while I'm babysitting her daughter, or if she decides to start pushing for more closeness, or if they start expecting additional help, it becomes a slippery slope I'm not interested in stepping onto. The days after the confrontation have been quiet on their end, but I can feel their irritation from a distance. It shows in the short, clipped one-sentence texts from my ex about logistics. It shows in the silence from Anna after her earlier attempts to guilt-trip me failed. And part of me wonders if they're waiting for me to cool off, waiting for me to reconsider, waiting to approach me again with a slightly different excuse. But they won't get a different answer. The thing that keeps hitting me is the irony. When they decided to cheat, they didn't consider me at all. They didn't consider my feelings, my home, my kids, my marriage. They made choices that shattered everything I had built. And now they expect me to step in and fix their childcare problem? The hypocrisy is stunning. What I can't stop thinking about, though, is how much they rely on this idea that I should prioritize the kids, as if their daughter is now my responsibility because she lives in the same house where my children spend part of the week. But the only kids I'm responsible for are my own. And protecting my peace, protecting my emotional boundaries, is part of being a good parent to them. I can show kindness without sacrificing myself. I can co-parent without enabling the people who hurt me. And I can say no without being the villain. Still, there's that voice in the back of my mind asking if my response was too sharp, If my anger made the truth sound harsher than it needed to. If I should have just walked away without asking my question, without making her admit what she did. I don't know. Maybe I could have. Maybe I couldn't. But I do know that Anna approached me with the expectation of free labor, guilt-tripping, and emotional manipulation. And I met her with honesty. Brutal honesty, yes, but honesty nonetheless. And in the end, I'm not the one who started any of this. In the days after everything settled, after the texts, after the overheard conversations, after the school function incident, things inside my house became strangely quiet. Not in an uncomfortable way, but in that steady, grounding way where life feels normal again. Peaceful, predictable. And I realized how valuable that peace was to me. My kids slipped back into their routine. I slipped back into mine. Dinner, homework, bedtime. The usual chaos of two kids, but the comforting kind, the kind I can handle. And that contrast, the calm inside my home versus the irritation radiating from my ex and Anna, made something click in. This peace isn't accidental. This peace exists because I refuse to let my ex and Anna drag their problems into my life. But even with that realization, the situation kept circling my mind in quiet moments. Early in the morning when I'm getting ready for work, or late at night when I'm winding down and everything is silent. I'd find myself replaying the entire chain of events with this strange mix of clarity and heaviness. I knew, logically, that refusing to babysit was the right decision. But the emotional layer, the guilt Anna tried to put on me, the accusation from my ex that I was punishing a child, the lingering sting from his petty comment, those things took a little more time to untangle in my head. One night, while folding laundry, I caught myself thinking, if the positions were reversed, would I ever expect Anna to babysit my kids? The answer was immediate. No, absolutely not. Not after everything. Not after betraying her. Not after blowing up her marriage. And certainly not after spending years acting as if she owed me nothing while I owed her understanding. It made me realize that the only reason I even questioned myself was because I was raised to feel responsible for keeping things civil, for smoothing over conflict, for being the bigger person. But being the bigger person doesn't mean being the person everyone gets to walk over. It doesn't mean free childcare. It doesn't mean swallowing pain to make other people more comfortable. And honestly, the more I thought about it, the more I realized how manipulative Anna's approach was. She didn't say, "Could you help me? I know we aren't close, and I understand if you say no." She said, "You should help because of the kid." Not her kid. Not my kids. The kids. A blanket term meant to lump our lives together, blend all the boundaries, pretend the past didn't matter. That wasn't an honest request. That was emotional pressure. And I don't owe her my time, just because she framed the request in a way that made her feel righteous. Still, even with all that clarity, I couldn't shake the lingering irritation that my ex was defending her so firmly. The way he jumped to her defense, almost reflexively, made me feel like I was being gaslit again. Like the affair was something minor and outdated, something I should be over. Like it didn't shape the current reality we all live in. It reminded me of when I first confronted him about the finances. How he tried to minimize everything, calling it some money spent to keep everyone happy, claiming he was devoted to me and the kids. As if cheating wasn't cheating as long as he kept up appearances. As if my pain was supposed to be negotiable. That same tone seeped into the messages he sent about babysitting. Why not just watch all 3 kids? You're being petty. Anna's daughter doesn't deserve punishment. It wasn't fair to bring up the affair like that. Every single one of those statements ignored the basic truth. I don't owe them anything. I think the part that bothered me most was his sudden concern for Anna's daughter. Not real concern. He's not a bad father, but he's not some saint who suddenly discovered selflessness. It was the way he framed it, like my refusal to babysit was somehow rooted in cruelty, which wasn't true at all. I don't blame Anna's daughter. I never will. That little girl didn't choose any of this. She didn't choose to be part of an affair or to be the reason my ex was blowing our family budget. She didn't choose to be at the center of adult drama. And that's exactly why I keep my distance. Because getting involved, getting entangled, would only blur lines that need to stay clear for her sake, for my kids' sake, and for mine. If I became her babysitter, even once a week, what happens next? Anna texts me more. Boundaries soften. Expectations grow. Suddenly, I'm part of their household rhythm, part of their support system, part of the life that replaced mine. That is not good for me. That is not good for my children. And honestly, that is not good for Anna's child either, because relying on a woman you helped betray is not a stable, healthy plan for anyone. As the week went on, I caught small glimpses of tension coming from their side. My ex became curt in his communication. No greetings, no polite closings, just logistics. Nothing more. I preferred it that way, but the tone shift was obvious. Anna didn't text again after her "you need to get over the cheating" comment. I guess she realized that her attempts to guilt trip me weren't working. Or maybe my silence made her uncomfortable. Either way, it felt like a line had finally been drawn in thick, permanent ink. And I'm glad for that. But I also knew something else. People like them don't sit quietly for long. When they don't get what they want, they find new angles, new ways to spin things, new ways to make themselves the victims. That fear crystallized when my oldest mentioned overhearing the conversation at their dad's place. They didn't repeat specifics, just the tone, the frustration, the annoyance. They didn't hear yelling or insults, just tense mumbling, like adults trying to vent quietly but not quietly enough. The idea of my name being spoken like that in the presence of my kids made my stomach twist. I don't want them absorbing any negativity that isn't theirs. I don't want them thinking I'm in conflict with their father. I don't want them worrying about things that should stay between adults. That's why I emailed my attorney. Not out of spite, but out of caution. Because I've learned the hard way that you document things early, before they turn into something bigger, before they twist a narrative, before they decide to rewrite events and blame me for something I didn't do. My attorney responded the next day and agreed that documenting everything was smart. He reminded me that I wasn't obligated to help Anna or my ex with childcare. He said what Anna did, approaching me at a public event and trying to pressure me using the kids, was inappropriate in itself. Hearing that validation from someone neutral helped quiet the last bit of doubt still lingering in my mind. A few days later, something small happened that cemented my decision even more. My youngest asked me, very casually, if I could pick up a friend from school one day. A simple, innocent request. I explained that I couldn't because the friend's parents hadn't asked me directly, and I needed to know their rules before taking someone else's child. And my youngest just shrugged and said, "That makes sense." That moment, tiny, mundane, forgettable to anyone else, hit me so sharply that I paused. Because even my child understood something Anna and my ex refused to see. You don't take responsibility for someone else's child without a relationship, trust, boundaries, and actual communication. If a kid asks, that's not enough. If a parent guilt trips you, that's not enough. If someone frames it as for the children, that's not enough. It requires safety, respect, mutual agreement, and real trust. I have none of that with Anna, and I no longer have that with my ex, so the answer remains no. Not out of anger, not out of spite, not out of pettiness, out of self-preservation. I can support my kids' home life without supporting my ex's new home life. Those two things are not the same. They never were. And when I picture myself picking up Anna's daughter, bringing her home, feeding her, taking care of her until 8 p.m., I feel nothing but dread. Not because of the child, but because of what that involvement symbolizes. A crack in the boundary I've built so carefully. A foothold for Anna to push herself into my life again. A door I am not willing to reopen. I've moved on from the marriage, but moving on doesn't mean volunteering to be their solution every time they hit a bump in the road. Saying no doesn't make me cruel. Saying no doesn't make me unfair. Saying no doesn't make me the villain in their story. It just makes me someone who finally learned to protect herself. In the end, the question that started this whole internal debate, am I the asshole, feels different now. Because when I strip away the guilt, the pressure, the lingering resentment, and when I look at it plainly, honestly, like someone outside the situation would, the answer becomes crystal clear. I wasn't punishing Anna's daughter. I wasn't being petty. I wasn't being vindictive. I simply said no, and saying no is allowed. Honestly, after going through this whole story, I don't think the OP was wrong at all. In fact, her reaction felt human, reasonable, and actually very controlled considering what she went through. People often expect the betrayed spouse to be endlessly calm, endlessly forgiving, endlessly accommodating. But why? Why is the responsibility always on the person who got hurt? Let's get one thing straight. Babysitting someone else's child is not a basic obligation. You only do it when you want to, not because someone tries to pressure you using the kids as an emotional excuse. And Anna, she didn't come with humility. She didn't come with accountability. She didn't even come with respect. She came with entitlement. What? Acting like the past didn't matter, like she could rewrite history whenever it suited her. The fact that she knew he was married from the start makes the entire situation even clearer. She didn't care back then. She only cares now because she needs something. As for the ex, calling her petty just because she wouldn't step in to fix their childcare problem, that's rich. That's unbelievably tone deaf. And honestly, it shows how little he's learned. The thing I admire most about the OP is that she's not letting guilt or social pressure force her into being a doormat. She's setting boundaries that protect her peace and protect her kid. That's what healthy co-parenting actually looks like. Not pretending everyone is one big, happy, blended family when that's not the reality. Because moving on doesn't mean volunteering to solve the problems created by the people who hurt you. In my opinion, the OP handled this with more grace and restraint than many people would. And if anything, the ex and Anna should learn to respect the boundaries that they themselves made necessary.